The horses were calm. The sun was rising. But Amy Fleming's eyes said something was wrong. She moved through the ranch like always, feeding, brushing, riding, but there was no light in her face. Something was missing. Something she refused to talk about. And that silence? It was louder than anything else at Heartland. Morning came softly over Heartland. The barn doors creaked open. Birds chirped in the nearby trees. Amy walked through the frost-covered grass with a steady pace, her boots sinking into the earth like she had walked the same path 1,000 times. But even the horses seemed to notice Amy wasn't really present. Her hands moved. Her voice was quiet. But her heart, it felt far away. She brushed Spartan slowly, her touch gentle but distracted. Spartan nudged her shoulder as if to say, "I'm still here." Amy smiled for a second, then looked away. A photo of Ty still hung by the stable entrance, and her eyes found it before she could stop herself. The pain hadn't gone, it had just settled deep inside her, like a stone under water. Still, heavy, always there. She didn't talk to anyone that morning. Not Lou, not Lisa, not even Lindy, who ran up to her with a drawing she made. Amy kissed her daughter's head, smiled, and said, "That's beautiful, sweetie," but there was something hollow in her tone. Something Lindy didn't understand but would one day. Heartland looked peaceful. The sky was blue. The fences were strong. But inside Amy, everything still felt unfinished. She had tried to move on. She had tried to be strong for Lindy. But how do you fill the space left by someone like Ty? Jack noticed. He always did. He watched Amy from the porch with his arms crossed. He didn't say a word, but his face tightened. He'd seen that kind of quiet before. The kind that grows into something dangerous if left too long. Later, Amy sat alone by the corral. A letter was in her hand, creased, old. She didn't open it. She just held it like it meant something important. But she wasn't ready. Not yet. Spartan stood beside her the whole time, as if guarding the part of her that still hurt. And just when the morning seemed like it would pass without incident, a shadow crossed the hill. Amy looked up, squinting into the sunlight. A figure on horseback. Slow, steady, unknown. Her body went still. Her breath caught in her throat. Who was it? And why did her heart suddenly start racing? She stood up, brushing the dirt off her jeans, eyes fixed on the rider coming closer. But she didn't speak, didn't wave. She just waited, frozen in that one quiet moment that would soon change everything. Because at Heartland, the past never stays buried. Not for long. And Amy was about to face something she thought was already behind her. But it wasn't. Not even close. Lisa was already in the kitchen when Jack came in. The smell of coffee filled the air, and the quiet clinking of her spoon in the cup sounded too perfect, like she was trying to avoid real conversation. Jack felt it right away. Something was off. Lisa had that polite smile on her face, the one she wore when she was keeping a secret. He didn't press her at first. He poured his coffee, sat down, and glanced out the window. Amy was still out there, working hard, but her eyes were on something else entirely. Jack could feel the weight in the house, even though no one had said anything. It wasn't just Amy. It was Lisa too. Finally, Lisa spoke. She mentioned a trip, a horse show out west. She wanted to invest in a breeding program. Something high-end. Big money. New territory. Jack put down his cup slowly. His eyes didn't blink. "You already booked it, didn't you?" he asked, voice low and steady. Lisa didn't answer right away, and that was his answer. Jack didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. But there was something in his silence that cut deeper than shouting. "You should have told me," he said, his words heavy with disappointment. "This place, it doesn't run on dreams. It runs on what's real." Lisa bit her lip. She believed in her plan. She believed it could help Heartland grow, modernize, reach new buyers. But Jack didn't want change. Not now. Not when Amy was still barely holding herself together. Not when everything felt like it could fall apart again at any moment. "You think standing still is the answer?" Lisa said softly. "I'm not trying to run away, Jack. I'm trying to move forward before this place freezes in time." That hit Jack harder than she realized. Because deep down, maybe he was afraid of the future. Maybe he wanted Heartland to stay just the way Ty left it. Just the way it used to be. Back when everything made sense. As their voices grew quiet again, the front door creaked open. Amy walked in, holding a folded letter in her hand. She didn't say a word, just passed through the kitchen like a ghost. Lisa looked at Jack, eyes full of worry. But Jack just stared into his cup again, his shoulders heavy. Outside, the new ranch hand moved through the paddocks. He was quiet, skilled, too skilled. Jack didn't like the way the man watched everything, especially Amy. He said he was just passing through, looking for honest work. But Jack had lived long enough to know when someone wasn't telling the whole story. Keep an eye on him, Jack muttered under his breath. Lisa heard him but said nothing, because secrets were starting to grow in Heartland. Small ones, quiet ones, but the kind that had a way of breaking through fences and shattering peace. The roar of a dusty old truck broke the stillness of the afternoon. Tim Fleming pulled up fast, slammed the door, and walked into the ranch like he owned the ground beneath his boots. He had that same cocky grin, that familiar rough charm, but there was something different in his eyes. Something tired, something uneasy. He came in talking loud, tossing out jokes and compliments like candy. "Still the best coffee west of Calgary, huh, Lisa?" he called out, even though no one was laughing. Amy looked up from the sink, surprised to see him without warning. Jack didn't even stand from the table. He just gave a slow nod. Tim sat down fast, like he had somewhere else to be. Or maybe like he didn't want to be there long. "So," he said, slapping the table, "good news, bad news, or maybe just news." Everyone froze. Tim never brought good news with that look on his face. He danced around it for a while, talking about horses he nearly bought, deals that almost went through, a rodeo friend who might have found him some opportunity in Montana. But when Jack asked directly, "What are you hiding?" Tim's mouth finally tightened. "It's the rodeo fund," Tim muttered. I messed up. Turns out Tim had tried to grow the rodeo business fast. He borrowed money, made deals without telling anyone, and now the numbers didn't add up. He wasn't broke yet, but he was close. And the worst part, he might have put Heartland's name as a reference on a contract without permission. Amy's jaw dropped. Jack's face turned red. Lisa sat back in her chair, silent. "Why would you do that, Dad?" Amy asked quietly. "I was trying to build something for Lindy, for all of us," Tim said, avoiding her eyes. "I thought I could pull it off before anyone noticed." Jack stood up slowly. "You never learn," he said flatly. "You don't gamble with family, not with this land, not ever." Tim tried to defend himself, but there was nothing left to say. The damage wasn't done yet, but the risk was real. And now, everyone had to figure out whether to help Tim again or let him sink on his own this time. As the room fell into silence, Amy stepped outside to clear her head. She stood by the fence, watching the horses graze, breathing hard. Then she heard a voice behind her, low, unfamiliar. "You look just like him when you're angry." She turned fast. It was the new ranch hand. Tall, quiet, watching her closely. Amy blinked. "What did you say?" He gave a half smile. "Ty, you've got his eyes." Amy froze. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. How did this stranger know Ty? Lou stood in front of the mirror, trying to fix her hair for the third time. Her phone buzzed with another message from the town council. Katie's homework was still unfinished. On the table, and her planner, color-coded and full, had 3 overlapping meetings for the afternoon. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. But it didn't help. Not today. Being mayor wasn't the hard part anymore. Being Amy's sister was. Heartland used to be her escape, her roots. But now, it felt like another weight on her shoulders. Amy barely spoke. Jack and Lisa were arguing behind closed doors. Tim had dropped a financial bomb. And Lou was just trying to hold it all together with duct tape and smiles. That morning, she tried to connect with Amy, brought her coffee, stood beside her in the barn, and said, "You know I'm here, right?" Amy nodded but didn't say anything back. The silence stung more than a fight ever could. Back home, Katie was acting strange too. Quiet, avoiding eye contact. Lou finally asked, "Is everything okay at school?" Katie shrugged. "Just tired." But Lou knew something was off. She just didn't have time to dig deeper. Not today. Later, at a town meeting, Lou was giving a speech about budget cuts when her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the council. It was Lisa. A short text. "You should come home. Something's happening." Lou left the meeting early. making up an excuse. She drove back faster than she should have, heart pounding. When she got there, Jack was pacing. Tim stood by the porch, arms folded. Amy was inside, shaken, pale, holding something small in her hands. It was a photo. A black and white image, gold faded. Ty in uniform. And written on the back was a name one Lou didn't recognize. Amy looked up, her voice breaking. He knew. Someone important. And that man out there, he knows everything. Lou's mind raced. The stranger, the quiet ranch hand, was suddenly at the center of a mystery. Why was he really here? How did he know Ty? And why now? Later that night, Lou finally broke down in the kitchen. She thought no one was watching, but Katie saw her mother crying and came over without a word. She hugged her tight. Just a child, comforting and overwhelmed. Woman who was supposed to be the strong one, Lou whispered, "I'm trying so hard, but I don't know what to do anymore." Katie said, "Then stop trying to do it alone." And maybe that was the answer, because at Heartland, no one survives alone. Not Amy, not Jack, not even Lou, especially not now when a storm was coming. And secrets were starting to rise from the ground like roots ready to tear through everything. A stranger rides in and Amy freezes. The wind changed before anyone saw him. It carried the scent of dust and leather, and something older like forgotten memories. The horses were the first to react. Spartan raised his head, ears flicking, muscles tight. Amy noticed the shift immediately. She turned toward the ridge and there he was, a single rider on a dark horse, moving slowly but with purpose. He didn't look like a drifter. Too clean, too still. His coat was long, his face shadowed by a wide hat. He didn't speak as he approached. He didn't wave. He simply rode in like he belonged, like this wasn't his first time at Heartland. Amy felt her stomach twist. Her hands clenched, though she didn't know why. Something about him, his shape, his rhythm felt hauntingly familiar, like a dream she had once, or a photo she stared at too long. She stepped back instinctively, bumping into the fence. The horses stirred restlessly. Jack came out onto the porch with narrowed eyes. Lisa followed, her hand on the doorframe. The man stopped at the edge of the ranch yard, dismounted without a word, and looked directly at Amy. His eyes were deep brown, quiet, searching. He held out a worn satchel, not aggressively, not casually, just with a quiet kind of gravity. Amy didn't move. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He took off his hat, revealing silver-streaked hair and a calm, unreadable face. "Name's Eli," he said. "Ty saved my life long ago. He told me if anything ever happened to him, I should come here. Bring this." Amy's legs felt weak. Jack stepped forward, protective now. "You knew Ty?" Eli nodded. "In Kandahar. We served together. Only reason I'm breathing is him." No one spoke. The only sound was the soft snort of Spartan and the distant rustle of trees. Amy slowly reached out and took the satchel. It was old leather and heavier than it looked. She didn't open it. "Not yet." "I waited," Eli said. "Waited years. Wasn't sure if I should come. Then I saw the news. About Ty. About you. Figured it was time." He looked around the ranch with a quiet sense of recognition, like he already knew the layout, like he'd been here before in stories. Lisa finally broke the silence. "You'll stay the night?" Eli nodded once. "Just one. I don't stay anywhere long." Amy clutched a satchel tied against her chest and turned away, walking back toward the barn. Her heart was racing, her mind spinning. Why had Ty never mentioned this man? Why now? What was inside the bag? Inside the barn, she sat alone on a bale of hay. She opened the satchel slowly. Inside were a bundle of letters, and something wrapped in an old scarf. Her hands trembled as she pulled it free. It was a photo. Ty and Eli, young, dusty, smiling, like the world hadn't touched them yet. And under the photo, folded small and careful, was a letter. The handwriting was Ty's. Amy stared at it, but she didn't open it. Not yet. Because sometimes, even the strongest hearts need time before they face the truth. The barn was quiet, except for the soft sounds of horses shifting in their stalls. Amy sat alone on a pile of hay, the satchel in her lap. Her fingers brushed the letter's edges, but she couldn't bring herself to unfold it. The handwriting was unmistakable. Ty's loops, his careful curves. It felt like a ghost had written it, and Amy didn't know if she was ready to hear his voice again. She had thought the hardest part was losing him, but now, holding a letter he'd written and hidden from her, she realized something worse. He hadn't told her everything. And whatever he had left behind in this envelope, it wasn't just memories, it was truth. Outside, rain began to fall, soft at first, then steady. It tapped against the barn roof like time slipping away. Amy sat frozen, heart pounding. Her thumb pressed against the seal. Then, slowly, she opened it. Ty's words began simply, "If you're reading this, I'm gone." Amy's breath hitched. Her hands trembled as she read. He spoke about Kandahar, about a mission that went wrong, a child caught in crossfire, a decision he made that haunted him every night. Eli had been there. Eli had seen what no one else had. That's why he was sent here. Ty needed Amy to know who he really was, not just the man she loved, but the man who carried something heavier than he ever shared. "There are things I couldn't say to you face to face," the letter read, "because I didn't want to see. Your eyes changed when you looked at me." Amy wiped away tears with the back of her hand. She read on. Ty talked about Lindy, about how proud he was, even though he was afraid of becoming a father. He confessed that some nights he dreamed of leaving the military behind and running far away, but Amy always brought him back. Her voice, her touch, the horses, Heartland. She was his anchor, his reason. And then, something else. Something that made Amy stop. "If anything ever happens to me, and a man named Eli shows up, trust him. He saved me once, but more importantly, he saved something I lost. Something you'll need." Amy's eyes scanned the bottom of the satchel again. Beneath the letters, there was a small, sealed envelope. No name, no markings, just thick paper folded tight. She opened it slowly. Inside was a birth certificate, but it wasn't Lindy's. Single quotes as .it was for another child. Amy's mouth went dry. Mother, unknown. Father, Ty Borden. Name, Elijah Gray. Date of birth, classified. The paper slipped from her hands. Amy's mind exploded with questions. Who was this child? Was Ty's silence guilt or protection? And why had Eli waited until now to bring this? Outside the barn, Jack was walking toward her. Eli stood near the fence, his face unreadable. Amy didn't know whether to run, cry, or scream, because Ty wasn't just her past anymore. He had left behind something, someone that would change everything. Dinner was quiet that night, too quiet. The kind of quiet that presses down on your chest, where every fork clink feels like thunder. Everyone was there. Jack, Lisa, Lou, Katie, even Tim, who for once had nothing bold to say. And then there was Eli, sitting at the edge of the table, calm as still water, but his presence shook the whole house. Amy sat across from him, the sealed birth certificate burning a hole in her pocket. Her hands never stopped moving, passing dishes, pouring water, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. She hadn't told anyone yet. Not about the name, not about the paper, not about the child that might carry Ty's blood. Jack sensed the shift. He cleared his throat. "So, Eli," he said slowly, "you planning on staying around these parts?" Eli looked up, wiped his mouth with a napkin. "Just long enough to do what Ty asked me to do." "And what exactly is that?" Lisa asked gently, though her eyes were sharp. Eli looked at Amy, not answering right away. "That's for her to decide." The silence returned, heavy, personal. Everyone could feel it, but no one dared ask. Not yet. Later that evening, Amy stepped outside alone. The night air was cool, the stars sharp and cold above her. She walked toward the corral where Spartan waited, his breath puffing white in the dark. She leaned her forehead against his strong neck, and for the first time in a long time, she whispered something out loud. "I don't know what to do." Behind her, footsteps. Light. Careful. It was Katie. "You okay, Aunt Amy?" Amy turned, managing a smile. "No, but maybe that's okay." Katie tilted her head. "Did Ty do something bad?" Amy hesitated, then shook her head. "No, he just had another life before us, and some parts of it are finally catching up." Katie nodded slowly, thoughtful. "Does that mean I have a cousin?" Amy's eyes widened. Katie was smart. Maybe too smart. Amy didn't confirm it, but she didn't deny it either. I think we all have pieces we didn't know were missing, she said softly. Back in the house, Lou was pacing. Jack sat with a mug of tea, staring into the fireplace. Tim stood outside Eli's guest room, fists clenched, unsure if he should knock. Something was shifting and everyone felt it. Eli stood alone by the barn, hands in his coat pockets, watching the stars. In his hand was a locket, old, small. Inside, a photo of a boy, not more than 10, sharp eyes, dark hair. The boy looked a little like Ty, a little like Amy, and everything like the future Heartland wasn't ready for. The camera would fade to black here, in a faceless video. But the words that echo? Heartland was always about family. But what happens when that family suddenly grows overnight? Season 19 had only just begun. But one thing was clear, nothing would ever be the same again.